Yeah.
They prefer greener energy supplies, of course, but if those numbers don't go down in their bills, then it's, it's another thing, isn't it, really?
Well, yeah, perhaps to get people on side, you certainly need them to be a lot cheaper than perhaps they would currently be with these net zero targets, so we'll have to wait and see on that one.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Olivia. We'll catch up with you a little bit later on. Now, I believe we're joined by one of our GB viewers, which is fantastic, William Pickup. William, thank you very much indeed for joining us this afternoon. I mean, what do you make of the news today that the price cap is going up and that pensioners could see their bills rise by £500?
Well, good afternoon, Emily and Cameron. Very nice to see you. Well, it's a bit of a disaster, I think, for the Labour government. The timing couldn't be worse. As Olivia said, this is going to cause all sorts of problems. They've just taken £200 off 10 million, 9 million pensioners at the same time as bills are about to rise. It's a complete disaster. From my point of view, I fixed my bill back in June, so I'm quite fortunate I won't be affected particularly by this. But out of those 10 million people, I know the government's view is that there'll be a significant number who don't need the £200. But how many? 3 million, 4 million, 5 million? You're still going to have millions of people who are going to have to get very cold and freeze at times because they haven't got this winter fuel payment. It sounds completely bizarre that we've got a Labour government doing this to pensioners.
I suppose it's interesting to see how, of course, we've had all these different prices going up, particularly with energy, but also food and supermarkets inflation has been a big issue, particularly in the last year or so. Do you think the biggest issue this winter, William, is going to be the energy price cap increase?
For some people, definitely, because inflation's down now, as we know, to 2% or whatever it is. So the food prices are pretty much stabilised, even though they're still high. But for some people, this has been a lifeline to get £200 and have that taken away from them. And on top of that, they know they're going to have to pay another £150. And the other thing is the timing of this. People haven't got... I was lucky, I managed to save from January a bit extra, pay more on my bill every month. So I've got a bit of a war chest. But many of these people haven't got the option to do that, and certainly not now, with autumn and winter almost upon us.
Now, William, how much faith do you have in Ed Miliband's green energy revolution? Lots of money's going to be pumped into GB Energy. Now, Ed Miliband thinks all the GB viewers will absolutely love GB Energy because it sounds a bit like the channel. But are you keen on the idea?
Is it possible to have less than zero faith in this project? I mean, it sounds great, doesn't it? Free energy for all, and it comes from wind. What can be greener and what can be better? The reality is, even the regulator and the power generators have said we need to recable Britain to get the amount of electricity we're going to need if we switch gas off and everyone have electric cars. That alone, the recabling of Britain, they've estimated will cost £3 trillion. I mean, this is just fantastic.
Sorry, William, I was going to say, what does Labour need to do to get the British public on side when it comes to meeting these net zero targets? Because if the energy is so much more expensive when it comes to net zero, what are they going to do about it at some point in the future when we do actually need net zero energy?
Well, I think they have to accept realism in the first place, which is to admit that gas and oil are going to be required for a lot longer than the next 5 years. They're probably going to, most of the experts are saying by 2050. So that's the first thing. And then have a sensible policy for trying to, somebody mentioned on the programme earlier, frack or carry out extracting gas from the North Sea, and allow that to happen and show people what Starmer's been saying for years, that he's on their side.
Yeah, I think a lot of people would agree with you. It's got to be pragmatic rather than too dogmatic and ideological. I mean, fundamentally, people need to be able to keep their homes warm, don't they, particularly in the winter. William Pickup, thank you very much indeed. I hope to speak to you again. Thank you for coming on. You're a GB viewer and also concerned with our energy policy, really. We've got some more views.
George says, hello. George says, good afternoon, Emily and Cameron. I received the winter fuel allowance, but now they are putting prices up again, and I will not be putting my heating on.